Good morning. I'm Harley Schlanger from the LaRouche Organization with your daily video update for February 5th, 2025. Let me begin by addressing some errors in detail that were made in yesterday's report on the anti-democratic actions in Ukraine against Natalia Vitrenko, who's a friend of the Schiller Institute. My intent was to call attention to continuing legal actions being taken against her. For the full accurate report, let me call your attention to the fact that we have an article from the Executive Intelligence Review on her case in the description section of today's update. And I urge you to read it and to think about what you might be able to do to help call attention to the illegal activities of the Ukrainian government funded by the U.S. government. Now, there are two big stories I want to cover today. One is the vote yesterday by two Senate committees to approve the nominations of Tulsi Gabbard for Director of National Intelligence and for Robert F. Kennedy Jr. as Secretary of the Department of Health and Human Services. This is the first step. Their nominations will go before the full Senate at some point in the next days. We don't have time for a victory lap. For those of you who did call your senators, it made a difference, and the wavering Republicans were pulled into support for Gabbard and Kennedy, but we have to keep it up, and it does make a difference when you make calls. Now, the irony is that both nominations were straight party votes. All the Republicans voted for, all the Democrats on the committee voted against. So we have to keep the pressure going, because the other side is doing everything they can to sabotage these nominations. The Democrats were running around yesterday saying that they still believe Gabbard is a national security risk. One of the people in the lead on this was the senator from New Mexico, Heinrich. He accused her of pushing conspiracy theories and parroting dictators' talking points. And he concluded his diatribe by saying, quote, "She appears to trust information from every other source but the intelligence community," unquote. Now, has this fool been living in a cave for the last couple of decades? The Gabbard made the point that it's not the intelligence agents that she distrusts, it's the political appointees who run the institutions, the permanent bureaucracy that runs the institutions at the top. And the idea that they should be trusted, given the war and the loss of American lives in Iraq, based on the fake story of weapons of mass destruction, the inability to know anything in advance about the attacks on 9/11, the destruction of Libya, Russiagate, one after another example of failures by the intelligence community because of the political intent. The weaponization, as people call it, of intelligence. That is, you report the intelligence necessary to justify the wars, to justify the sanctions, and so on. And that's why President Trump nominated Gabbard, because he trusted her that she would use her judgment and not the politically correct decisions to back the intelligence community, which has been wrong over and over and over, and has cost lives and hundreds of billions of dollars. So this is a mobilization which must continue. Keep up the good work. Keep the pressure on the Senate. Let them hear from you on this. Now, the other news is a little more baffling. It was the statement, the press conference by President Trump after his meeting with Israel's Prime Minister Netanyahu. Now, Trump went further than Biden in supporting the Greater Israel policy, which is one of ethnic cleansing, taking the Palestinians out of Palestine. That's what Netanyahu and his extremist allies like Ben-Gvir and Smotrich are calling for. That is, moving the Palestinians out of Gaza forever and making Gaza, as President Trump said, a beautiful place, essentially a Mediterranean resort that would be owned by the United States. Now, in saying this, he seems to be ignoring the unified Arab position that was determined at a meeting last Saturday that called for a reaffirmation of a two-state solution, that a Palestinian state must be created, an end to the occupation, and a reconstruction program so that the Palestinians can live safely in their homes. Now, the proposal for reconstruction of the Arab countries, by the Arab countries, I should say, is not for real estate speculators, but for people's lives. Now, the proposal of President Trump was, of course, endorsed by Netanyahu, who's a proponent of Greater Israel. But remember, Netanyahu is seen by most of the world as a war criminal for the Israeli massacres of Palestinian children in the war since October 7th, 2023. Now, the president seemed to be saying that he would put American troops in Gaza. But this is a president who ran for office saying he would oppose any wars, a deployment of American troops in danger anywhere. And so the question is, would he do this in opposition to all the international treaties and agreements which confirm that the Palestinian state is for the Palestinians? Now, this is an important issue because we have the deal to be worked out with to end the Ukraine war. There needs to be negotiations with the Chinese to eliminate the danger of a war in Asia. President Trump seems to be opposed to the idea of an expansion of NATO. And yet this idea of deploying American troops to seize territory, to make it an open prospect for real estate speculators, goes against the tradition of the United States as a republic. And I would suggest that President Trump, or at least some of his advisors, read the article I've attached in the description section by Lyndon LaRouche on what it means that the United States is a republic. That is, that our position should be that we abide by international law and act for the mutual benefit of other countries, not for the benefit of private interests and speculators. And this is, of course, an extremely important issue because it gets to the heart of what is the basis for peace. Peace is not just a ceasefire or an end to shooting, but peace requires an agreement that has an incentive for all sides involved to lay down their weapons and work together and recognize the interests of the other. That's the idea of the Peace of Westphalia, which is at the center of the Schiller Institute's advocacy. And that means not that you do something that benefits a small group of speculators in your own country, but that you act for the interests of the whole, of all sovereign nations. And that's what has to be done to bring peace to the Middle East. There's not peace there because it was set up as a conflict zone by the British during and after World War I. And it's long overdue that situation be settled. Now, finally, let me call your attention to what will be a very fascinating dialogue today at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time live. Helga Zepp-LaRouche will be talking with veteran intelligence professionals for peace member Larry Johnson, former CIA analyst. This will be the weekly webcast that we have, and the topic will be breaking through the fog of the narratives. So I'd urge you, watch the interview today. If you can't get it live, it'll be archived. And read these articles. It's really crucial. LaRouche's article is a longer theoretical piece on what is the nature of a republic. And this is at the heart of the fight to restore a real America as opposed to the fraudulent imperial unipolar order that was put in place by the Bushes, Obama, Biden, and others. So thanks for joining me today. Tomorrow, Diane Sarah will be doing the morning update.